Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of the Fail Up Podcast. Today I have a very special guest. I'm your host, Adil Malik, and we're going to dive in today. This is the podcast where we talk about adversity and how to turn it into an advantage. And adversity can show up in so many different ways. It can show up in career. It can show up, when we're in regards to our health, when we're trying different diets and trying to really get our health in order. But it also shows up in relationships. And I think one of the things that's really understated, especially in our 20s, is relationships are more complex than we ever thought, right? And, if you read about it in a book or you hear about it from a friend, it's one way, but to experience it is a completely different thing. And I think relationships are really important. It reshapes how we view other people. It shapes the way we look at love and intimacy, and it shapes us as individuals as well. And I think there are very few people out there that I know, basically all of my friends, if anyone's actively dating, almost everyone's been in maybe not the healthiest relationship. And sometimes that toxic relationship can be worse for one person than one individual than somebody else. So I'm excited because today we're going to talk about failing up in relationships. And Jessica's a dear friend of mine. We've known each other for 6 years now. We met out in Los Angeles when I lived there, and she's a really dear friend of mine. And our relationship has grown in a very profound way. And I think one of the reasons is that we've been so vulnerable with each other. She shared a lot of things with me, and I've seen her transformation in the last few years. And I can't believe where both of us are, especially in regards to relationships, right? We're both in really healthy relationships and loving relationships. And it's a world of a difference of where we were when we first met. So, Jessica, I really appreciate you coming on today. I know it's not easy to discuss some of the things we're going to talk about, but I think it's important for people to hear because there are probably more people experiencing it than we know, because most people are too scared to share. They have too much shame and guilt surrounded by being in toxic relationships or unhealthy relationships. But I think that is kind of your gift, that you're going to have a lot of wisdom and insight, because people sometimes feel imprisoned. Even though there aren't any physical shackles, they may feel imprisoned being in a relationship with somebody they're not meant to be with. And I think they need a couple of steps or just some words of encouragement of how do they get out. So anyway, without further ado, I'm going to welcome Jessica, and we're going to dive right in. Tell us a little bit, Jess, about
Thank you.
you're not from LA, you moved from Seattle. Tell us
Yeah.
a little bit about your experience in Seattle, growing up in Seattle, your childhood, and your
hmm
move to Los Angeles.
Yeah. Yeah. Thanks for having me, Jill. So I grew up in a town called Puyallup, which is about 45 minutes south of Seattle. I say Seattle because nobody knows what Puyallup is. It's literally like a small farmer town. Like we're known for the Puyallup Fair. Like that's our thing. It's really small. So I grew up there. As soon as I was 18, I got out of Puyallup, went up to Tacoma, then went up to Seattle, finally made it to LA. But yeah, I grew up, my mom, she really was my hero growing up. I knew she went through a lot. She divorced my dad when I think I was about 4. My sister was 2. We were still really young. My dad was not a good guy, not a nice guy.
What are your
He was
earliest
very
memories of your What are your earliest memories of your dad growing up, like before they separated?
I'll be honest, I don't have any true memories of him until I just remember him being in and out of prison when I was young, when I was like 5, 6, 7, like that age. Like all I just remember was, okay, he's in prison. No, he's out of prison. We're gonna go see him. Now he went back to prison. So that was like my first memories of my dad. And then he finally got out of prison for the last time when I was 15. And then, so obviously came back into my life. He got remarried. We had
Well,
like a little,
what was your life like?
mhm,
I guess not really having a father present. Like,
not having
did it
him.
hit you?
I had,
Did it hit you? Like, did you realize it when you went to school and you realize other girls have their dad or they talk about their dad?
yeah. Well, it was weird because I was such a daddy's girl with him, like when he wasn't in prison, obviously. And I was really, really sad when he was gone. And it did make me really sad. But my mom remarried when I was like 6 and I had a stepdad. Um, my relationship with him was kind of weird because I was such a daddy's girl that I was one of those kids that's like, I want my dad, where's my dad, you know? And I think looking back now, you'd have to be a really, really strong man to be able to handle this little girl always crying about her dad and you're trying to be there, you know? And so him and I had like a weird relationship. I think he did better with my sister because she was a lot younger. Um, but yeah, I was in this weird place where I kind of had a dad, like I called my stepdad dad. So I had a dad, but then I had what we called my other dad. And it just, I don't know, it just never felt like I always kind of wished, you know, that you have those friends that their dad is so loving and he's there to like take care of you. And when you're over at your friend's house, their dad's just happy and gives everyone a hug and he's just that great guy. And I always wished I had that and I never did. So it was pretty sad. And I think that like kind of sat with me a lot growing up and affected a lot of my decisions that I made in life.
What was your first
So
relationship?
yeah, my very first relationship, I would say my first real relationship wasn't until I was 19. So okay, I guess that's pretty young still, but I was 19 when I got in my first relationship and we were together for about 5 years. So
Got it. And then would you
long
say
time, yeah.
like not having your father present and the absence of your father impacted that relationship in any way?
Yeah, I think I had dated before him in high school, but I always picked those like really bad boys, like the worst guys that you could find in school. I picked them. And this guy that I had started dating when I was 19, he kind of still, I think just because he was older than me, he was in college. I wasn't going to college at the time. He just seemed like really cool. Um, and he was fun. We partied, we did all of that stuff. So I don't know if my dad really affected, because at that time I had a relationship with my dad, my real dad, because he was out of prison. He was remarried. They had a new son. And so we kind of had this little happy family for a while. So I had that relationship with my dad when I started dating my ex. So I don't know how to explain it. I think it didn't really affect it too much. Maybe not that I knew of at the time.
Got it. Okay. And then
Yeah.
your first relationship, you said 5 years. 5 years is a long time. Was it a happy
Yeah.
5 years? Was it mutual when you guys broke up?
Oh my gosh, the fights that we would have. But I was so young. He was so young. You know, at that age, you're still trying to figure yourself out, and we all have issues from our families, right? So I think neither of us really knew how to be mature and have those like deep, hard conversations. So yeah, we would have some crazy fights, but there was never any like violence there. It was just like us screaming at each other, me crying, like that kind of thing. It wasn't that
Yeah,
crazy.
like a high school
Um,
relationship.
just like a high school, but it happened in my early 20s. But I'm sorry, what was your question?
No, just like how did you guys? Was it mutual when you guys broke up? Because 5 years is a
I
long
broke up
time.
with him. Yeah, so he broke up with me after about a year, 2 years in, he broke up with me, and I was really, really heartbroken. I thought I was going to marry this guy. It was awful. And then 3 months later, he decided he wanted to get back together, and I was like, okay. And then after then, I just don't think I felt really the same. I think that heartbreak, and maybe that's like something that I take from my dad because that heartbreak, I kind of protect myself. I don't feel the same way for you anymore. And so we were together for another few years after that, and then
But
yeah, I broke it
you
up with
didn't
him.
give, yeah, you didn't give 100% of yourself, and you felt like your
I
guard was up
didn't,
a little bit.
my guard was up, but I also realized, we were also growing in separate ways. I think we wanted different things. I could see that he wasn't growing into the type of man that I wanted for myself. And I just didn't see myself with his family. Just every time I looked at our future, I didn't really see it as him being the one. So I broke it off with him. It was hard because we had all those memories, but ultimately it was for the best. And he's remarried now, and so I'm happy for him.
Yeah. Um,
Yeah.
And then
or
when
married, not
your
remarried.
relationship, and then so that was you were still in Seattle at the time, right?
Yeah, I was still in Seattle.
And then how soon until it was your next relationship?
A few years. I'm really good at being single. I broke it off with him in 2024, and I didn't start dating somebody else seriously until, um, or sorry, 2014 is when I broke it off with him, and then I didn't start dating another person until 2018. So it took
Okay.
me a few years. It was the year that I moved here to LA that I started
Hmm.
dating him. You know who
So
I'm
how?
talking about.
Yeah. So, and
Yeah.
this is what I want to get into. So, the 4 years
Yeah.
that you were single, is there a reason you weren't in a relationship? Did you were just happy to be alone? You had
Yeah,
a social life.
I did have a social life. I was really busy with the job that I was doing. That's when I was working for the timeshare company doing sales. So I was like a little sales hustler, just trying to work my ass off and make a ton of money. And I just was enjoying being single and having the freedom. And I'm also really picky. I have to really, really, really like you to be with you. And that doesn't happen very often. So yeah, I was just enjoying being single.
So, the next relationship you entered, how did that guy get your attention?
This is the one. Have you ever seen that? There's like some poem or some. It's not a poem, but something out there. Somebody wrote about how you have your three loves. You have your young one, and then you have your hard one, and then so this was that hard one, and he got me because it just was. This is the one that later on I realized was just like my dad. He didn't look like my dad, like physically looked nothing like him, but he just had that like pull at me, like I guess my dad has, my real dad. Um, he was charming, he was a boxer, just dangerous, whatever kind of guy, but he seemed like he was so in love with me, and it just seemed like too good to be true. It just, I don't know, it just kind of all like fell into place. Like when you feel like that person, you're like pulled to that person. I don't know how to explain it. I'm
Yeah, there
sure
was a lot of attraction,
you've
a lot
been
of
there.
tension. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
and passion. So take
yeah.
us through the kind of the relationship, right? So in the beginning, obviously there was a lot of attraction, and
hmm
things were going good. And I think obviously everyone has the honeymoon phase, right, in every
mm
relationship. But tell us about kind of when the honeymoon phase started to fade, and maybe how were the first couple fights, arguments? How did you guys deal with each other if there was disagreements?
I mean, I will say the honeymoon phase didn't last too long. I think that we were maybe together for a month before I saw the first like really big kind of scary red flag. But
What was that red
I
flag?
Do you want me to tell you the story?
You have to tell. You have to tell. Everyone
Okay.
wants to hear the story.
Okay. So I asked him if he wanted to go to Portland with me. It's like, I don't know what it's like, a 5 hour drive, something like that, from Seattle to Portland, to come with me to get this tattoo removal. I don't know why I wanted to drive out to Oregon. I guess I'd seen a friend do it there, and I was like, let's go to Oregon. So he was like, yeah, let's go on this trip. So we drive down to Oregon. At this point, we're having the best time already. Like, we're so in love. It's just crazy. And we drive down there. He has a friend that lives down there. So we do the whole tattoo removal thing, and then we go and visit his friend. And we all go out. We decide to go to a club. And this is when I realized he's not good with alcohol. And so he got really drunk. Um, He also used to be a club promoter, and from your experience, they're very social people. That's kind of what it, brought me to you as my friend. You're a very social person. And so he's, meeting all these people. And then I think I was like inside the club. He like left me to go talk to people, and I was just kind of sitting there at some stool or something. And my heel broke off on my shoe. So my heel was broken. So I have my heel in my hand and I'm walking around kind of like hobbling around looking for him. And it's getting pretty late at this point. And I'm pretty drunk already. And he's outside talking to some guys and some girls outside of the club. And this whole time I was like sitting on the stool, where is he? Why isn't he coming back? So he's out being social. I instigated, I was drunk, and I pushed him. I was like, hello, what are you doing talking to these people? So I pushed him to get his attention. I'm drunk, right? And something just clicked in his head and he like went off and like freaked out. And,
This
you
is in
know, it's all
public,
kind of,
like in front of
this
people.
is in public. This is outside of the club. He's like, starts screaming at me. And I'm just like, whoa, like he just was crazy. And I ended up getting an Uber to go back to the place because I was like, you're fucking nuts. And he kept telling me as I was walking away, he was like, you're ex, and was like doing this weird thing, like, you're ex. He was like doing that to me. And I was like, honestly, fuck you. So I got to the Uber. I went back to the place. I went up to the room that we were going to stay in and I just went in bed. And I heard them come in. They came in and he's screaming. His friends are trying to calm him down. He's just being absolutely crazy. And then at one point, and then I get out and I was like, fuck you. I was also drunk, right? And then I just end up going back to bed, trying to go back to bed. And he comes up the stairs and he starts screaming. And like all of the things that I hear him saying, he's like telling his friend, like, oh, I fucked your bitch, da 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 da, like just being crazy. And he comes upstairs, he starts yelling at me, and I get out my phone to record him because I was like, I'm gonna show him what he looks like tomorrow. And just, it just was so crazy. I can't remember everything step by step, but it just ended up being a crazy, crazy night. Finally, I went to bed, he went to bed. And then at that point, I thought he was just crazy and like would scream and stuff. I never imagined that he would hit me one day. I just thought that he was kind of crazy and would scream.
How did you reconcile
And
everything the next day? He just woke up and act like nothing happened?
the
Or
next day, yeah, you know what? I think I went to bed. I think he was still awake because he had a habit of like staying awake and drinking and smoking like all night. He could do that with his friends. So I think he was still awake when I woke up the next morning and I just like, we drove home. He called his sister, told his sister about what happened because he's really close with his mom and his sister. And obviously she's like, you can't do that again. And he literally said to me as we were driving home, he said, I ruin everything good in my life. And he was like, I don't blame you. If you want to walk away, you should probably stay away from me. That's what he said to me. And
and you at the time were like, hell no, I'm definitely staying. Like,
I was like, I felt so bad for him. I don't know how to explain it. I know I'm a very empathetic person. I'm a very compassionate person. And I just felt so bad for him because I knew about his past and the way he grew up being abused by his dad. And I just felt so bad for him. And I think he
you
knew
felt
that
you
too.
you felt guilt because you cared about him too as a person.
I didn't feel guilt. I just felt for him. You know, I had compassion for him and I felt sorry for him. And I thought that we all think that maybe we'll be the one to fix somebody, right? But I thought maybe that loving me would be enough for him to like fix his ways. So we just drove back. And then we got to my house, stayed in bed all day, and then we just continued our relationship after that. We didn't really speak. I did tell him when we were in the car, I was like, you're never going to do something like that to me again. If you do something like that, I'm going to leave you. I said that to him, and I thought I meant it at the time. But I guess I didn't because that relationship lasted. He moved to LA with me, so yeah.
It lasted years, and I think this is around the time
Yeah.
when I met you when you moved to LA. I thought, obviously I had no idea what was actually happening in the background. Um,
Yeah.
I thought you were just a more low key person, a little bit more chill. Whatever you shared with me, you shared with me. I knew that you were in a relationship with somebody, but it wasn't until much later in our friendship when I realized like something was was wrong, right? And I didn't realize to like what extent. I thought like, oh, they fight and argue, because at the time I was actually in a relationship that wasn't the healthiest either,
Yeah.
and I kind of would vent to you about certain things. I remember as friends we discussed, and then you started to feel more comfortable and you shared, and I think there was a breaking point, right? And tell me kind of about that. That I remember. I'm not sure if you remember what story I'm talking about, but this was like one of the low points. I think when you knew like I had to kind of get out of this relationship, and that's when he like, I don't know if he made you feel stuck, but he kind of imprisoned you, right? In a sense of, it wasn't just like physical abuse; it was also emotional. And I want to ask you, why was it when you knew all the red flags were in front of you and you knew like this clearly wasn't it? Why is it so hard for you to leave a relationship like that? That's clearly not beneficial for you.
Yeah. I think that it's on the surface. Yeah, it's clear that that's not for you. But I think when you're really in the heat of a relationship like that, it's not just the passion. I think it's that like do you feel like you have soul ties with certain people? Do you believe that?
Yeah.
Because usually when you're in a relationship like that, at least from my experience, I think this person and I really did have a soul tie. And I don't know if it's like a past life thing or what it was, but you just feel this intense pull with this person. You feel like that's supposed to be your person. Like, and I think the fact that we related so much on,
But
his past.
did he ever like promise you things? Like I understand what you're saying about
Oh,
getting
he
a divorce.
promised me all the time. Oh my gosh. So many times he promised me he was going to get therapy, that he wasn't going to do this anymore. Like a thousand promises he gave me. And every time I thought, okay, maybe this time he means it. Maybe this time he takes it seriously. And it's like, oh, clearly this guy isn't for me. I'm better off without him. It's like you truly feel like that's almost your soulmate in a weird way. And it was so good in the beginning that you hope that, okay, if he could just go to therapy and he could just get past all of that stuff, we would be so happy. And you just kind of hold on to that
Yeah,
because you're
like a little
holding on
glimmer of
to,
hope. Yeah. False hope.
yeah, and that glimmer it does dim more and more over time, but for a while, like I think it's there and it's strong, and the lows are so low, but the highs are so high. Like he wasn't all a horrible person. He could be a really sweet boyfriend sometimes, and he did a lot of really, really sweet things to make me feel really loved. So, yeah, there would be times that he would go crazy, and obviously those times weren't acceptable. And, you should never put your hands on a woman. But he would try to make up for it for a long time before it happened again. So it was like this weird
Like
cycle.
cycle. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and
Um,
I think that's what keeps people in that.
did you feel that towards the end that you not just lost yourself, obviously, if you're not in a healthy relationship, but did you feel like you had you were losing your sense of reality, or who you really were? And
I
how even
definitely
how did this affect your other relationships with friends,
mm,
family, etc.?
um, yeah, I mean, I think that you do lose yourself a little bit in any type of relationship like that because, how can you sit there and be abused physically, mentally, whether it's every day or if it's like once a month? How can you get that? How can you take that in and not kind of change in a way and start to lose yourself a little bit? So yeah, I think I definitely did. And, some of my friendships did become estranged because there are certain friends that I would tell about it, some of my best friends, and
Yeah.
some of them had been in previous abusive relationships. And for them, it was really hard to watch me do it. So they would have to kind of separate themselves. And so it did take a strain on some of my friendships. And yeah, I mean, I think overall, it definitely changes you as a person. Um, so yeah.
Um, what was your breaking point? Like obviously it was a culmination of all these things, right? But when were you like I've had enough, I'm fed up and I'm tired of this?
Yeah. I think there was a few times that I had those points, but then I think with relationships like that, you kind of have to keep going back for a little while until you find it. So for me, the very last straw was during COVID. He had moved to Vegas and I went to go visit him during the lockdown when you weren't supposed to be going anywhere. I went to visit him and stayed with him for like 5 days or so. And I had had some space from him for a while before that. I think we hadn't talked for like 6 months. I thought maybe he was doing better. Everything could be different this time. And he was just the same person. He just still was, crazy, would drink too much and then get insecure for whatever reason. He would find a reason to get insecure and then he would start talking me down and telling me like, "Oh, you're looking for attention, you're this," and just putting me down and just being,
He would gaslight you.
yeah, yeah, he was just doing all of that. And so I just was like, you know what? You're all the way in fucking Vegas now. I'm not going to do this with you anymore. And then, um, yeah, I just told him, I was like, you know what? This is it. I'm done. And then I left. And that was that.
Yeah, I think the thing I've noticed for people not in healthy relationships, I think you just get to a point where you've just had enough and you're so fed up,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
you have
It's like
to
when you start to feel
shift
numb
away.
from it.
Yeah, where
Yeah.
you're numb and
I
you're
think,
like, yo, this is not okay. Like I can't. This is
yeah.
ridiculous.
Like I shouldn't be feeling like, ugh, here we go again. Like I shouldn't be feeling like that.
It's
You know what I
yeah.
mean?
It's like this is
I
clearly not okay, and I think it's so messed up because your barometer for what's okay and what isn't, it like you're so stuck in that world of the arguments, the things you say each other, like even
yeah,
you're like not a good version of yourself. Let alone forget like
yeah.
even showing up as the best friend and as a happy person. You always have this kind of pressure on your back, and you have like a little bit of
Hmm.
baggage. You're a little bit maybe on edge because you're just used to being on edge with this person, and yeah, it just like warps your sense of reality, and it becomes too normal to fight and say certain things
Yeah.
that you
Hmm.
don't realize you might carry that with you even if you walk away from the relationship. So trying to really spot the red flags and do something early on, I think, is super important. Um,
It's
would
so
you?
important. Yeah. Yeah.
What would you say? How has faith played a role? Was there like a moment where you felt guided by something greater than yourself, or what was? How did you? Where did you draw on for a sense of power and strength? Was it your family? Was it friends? Was it God? Like, how did you kind of get yourself out of that?
After I left him,
Yeah, because obviously there was a
um,
healing process.
yeah, yeah. I definitely did a lot of praying. And I've never been a super religious person. I didn't grow up in church. I didn't know much about the Bible other than this like children's Bible that we had that my mom would read to us. But I just felt very like called to just keep praying for, myself. I did a lot of praying for him as well. Just really trying to pray for healing. And I think just trying to get back to myself. I did a lot of journaling. I started writing down, like, okay, what is it that I want out of a man? Just journaling about my life, where I was now, and like where I wanted to be. I just did a lot of that. I spent a lot of time alone. Um, and then, I honestly think you helped me a lot during that time, Adil, because if it wasn't for you always calling me and saying, "Jess, we're going to go here. You're going to come do this with me and my friends. You're going to come do this with me and my friends," I think I would have spent a lot more time alone. I think it would have been harder, but you helped me a lot because I didn't have a ton of friends in LA yet at that point. I was only a couple years in. And so, yeah, you helped me a lot
I appreciate
during
that.
that time.
Yeah, because I
Yeah.
also know what it's like. When I was in LA my first year, it was alone, and I can't even imagine if I walked out of a relationship like that, how hard that would have been.
Yeah,
And
it
I don't
was
know,
hard.
I just had empathy in a sense. I have three younger sisters. I'm the oldest brother, so I kind of have
Mm-hmm.
this like nature of like I don't know. A lot of my boys, for example, like if they're friends with a girl, it's only because they're hooking up with them, unless they've
Yeah.
known them for years and years. So like for me, I had a kind of good balance of lots of guy friends, lots of girlfriends, because
Yeah.
there was any shortage of dating in LA, and I wanted a good friend group. I thought you were awesome, and I was like, no, I need to have her around. Like she can't be by herself, dwelling in her sorrows and thinking about this, because that's what's going to come to your mind because
Yeah.
it's fresh. So I was like, she needs to just get out there, see other happy, positive people, and it'll snap, and it did. I'm so happy with the progress you made. I remember the
Thank
beginning
you.
part of it, the healing process. My fear was like, damn, like this poor girl, is she ever gonna trust another guy again after this? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that was for me. I was like, I hope she's not like, I hope she's just not one of those people that just has a guard up and judges every guy. And even if there's the slightest red flag, I was scared that maybe you would be damaged goods like for a long time. But you definitely worked through it in a really really strong way. To be honest, like pretty quick, maybe more than other people are capable of. And you got back on your feet well. You were like more determined than ever. I feel like you also
Yeah.
became a way lighter person. Like you were just like more
Yeah.
kind of free, like free spirited after it
Yeah.
all happened.
I felt, yeah, so much freer. Like I said, like before him, I was single for a few years and I knew how to have fun and be single and like live that life. And so for me, getting back to it, especially having you bring me around your friends and that social group, that obviously helped a lot. It kept me busy. Um, and just trying to, I think taking it day by day, I do think I was a little bit damaged goods for a while. I was very much of a man hater. Like any little red flag, I was like, absolutely not. Like I went on dates and stuff, but
Yeah,
just
I remember
every
some of the
guy.
things, and this is where we disagree. Like you would say certain things, and sometimes I'd be like, I hope that I give you hope that like not
You
every
did,
guy's a
yeah.
scumbag, and like there's guys that actually care, and less like yes, maybe we say stupid shit here and there, and we want to have fun, but at the end of the day, like if a guy truly cares about you, he shows up a certain way, and it exists. Like I'm
Yeah.
blessed because I also grew up with a mom and dad that love each other, that are still together, that still love each other, and I think probably more than they ever have in their lives. And I'm watching that love evolve more and more. So I'm like, okay, that's my definition of like what a man is, which is my parents are very old school. So it's like my dad does everything. He's always out of the house. He's always working. And my mom is just like, she has the most important job, which is to be a mother and run the household. And I grew up
Hmm.
with that image, and I kind of embody that, I think, now in my marriage. But I realize like the world, not everybody has that blessing of having that type of role model or example. So if they go through experiences in life that shape their views, it's not 100% their fault, or it's a result of whatever trauma and issues that they went through. But at the same time, they should have hope and know that it does exist, that they can find healthy love. So
Hmm.
now this is the question. So now you're obviously in a very healthy relationship.
Hmm.
I love him. He's the man. He's such a good guy, great
Yeah.
personality, hardworking, intelligent. Um,
Hmm.
I mean, you like Jessica. Like this is amazing. I remember the last time we were in LA, when I was like sitting there, I had a moment where I was just looking, and I was like, this is crazy that we've come this far. Like
Mm.
I was in a
Yeah.
toxic relationship before, you were in one, and to get. And he's fun. Like it's not that he's just like good on paper. He's also like a fun guy with a great personality.
Yeah.
How is that? And would you say you had your guard up when you guys were first dating, or did you guys just hit it off? And were there things that came up from the past that affected you guys when you guys started dating?
Yeah. Well, I want to start off by again acknowledging you and everything that you just said about having that role model because that's obviously something that I didn't have growing up was a strong male role model figure in my life. And so I think that obviously added a lot to my decision in men and the amount of time I spent with you and also my friend Damon that you know as well. The two of you being such good friends to me, and there was never any type of, flirtation, nothing there with either of the two of you.
It was
And
it was
it,
like it was like because in our head it's just like you're good for the sake of being good, for the virtue of being
yeah,
good, not and like being a reliable friend and like being there if you need a favor, just because that's that's the right thing to do, right? Like there doesn't
yeah.
have to be agenda or something else.
Yeah, exactly. But just spending the time with you, I got to pull, and I always tell Stefan this, that I kind of pulled things that I learned from you and things that I saw that I wanted from you, or like from somebody like you in a relationship, and I would do the same with Damon, and I kind of like molded that together and got Stefan
Yeah,
in
you're
a
like, this is the guy I
way.
want. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But no, I learned so much from you. Like just watching you obviously grow from the previous relationship that you were in, and then when you found Mitra and how amazing you were with her. Just I remember the conversations, we would go hiking and you'd be talking about Mitra and something that you guys did, or just how much you loved her, and just I just remember thinking like, "Ah, I want that one day. Like she's so lucky. That's I'm so happy for you guys." And I didn't want to settle for something less than that. And so I don't know, when I found Stefan, I wasn't looking for Stefan, and Stefan's just he's not ever what I would have like imagined, as far as like, you have your typical type that you're attracted to and that you go for. And Stefan is very handsome. He's such a good looking guy, but he's just not somebody that I would have been like,
Your
you
bad boy
know,
type or whatever. Yeah.
he's not the bad boy
Yeah.
boxer crazy type. And that's amazing. And that's what I love about him so much. But I wasn't initially like into it like that. But I met him because he was best friends with my roommate at the time's boyfriend. And so that's obviously how I met him. So I knew he was going to be around. And so we just became friends. Obviously, he did, you know, initiate that he was interested in me, but I told him no, I just want to be friends. And I think the fact that he was so okay with that, or at least made me feel like he was okay with that, really let my guard down a lot, because I had a huge guard up with guys. Like any guy that I would go on a date with, like you feel that like pressure that, okay, they want something from you.
Yeah.
And he never made me feel that pressure. And so, because I didn't feel that pressure from him, and he was such a sweet and nice guy, it made me want to just get to know him more and just be friends with him. I did push back for a long time about anything more. I kept saying, no. I remember he was so sweet for my birthday because he was living in Seattle. He sent me a bunch of roses for my birthday, and I told him, I think we need to take a step back. I wasn't like, oh, you got me roses. I was like, why'd you get me roses? We need to take a step back. I was very like pushed back for a long time.
Yeah.
But just the fact that every time I did that and I pushed back, he was like, okay, you're right. You're right. We should push back. And then he would just go back to being my friend again. So that like slow burn, I guess, is what I hear a lot about lately. People talking about that slow burn. That's kind of what that was with him. It was really, really slow. And then once I felt like I just truly trusted him, I don't know, something came over me and I was like, you know what? He deserves it. He deserves me to like give myself to him. And so
Like he's earned
that's
it kind of
really,
thing.
yeah, like he has earned my trust, so I want to explore more with him.
Yeah. Like you had a
Yeah.
natural curiosity. The thing that
Yeah.
I've realized too in relationships is, and sometimes guys might not like to hear this, but the truth is, to a degree, a woman sets the pace, right? If she's,
Yeah.
you can be persistent, you can show up, but at the end of the day, the woman decides how much she allows of herself for you to have, emotionally,
Yeah.
physically, etc. And if she's more comfortable with you and it feels natural, then she will. She's just assessing you. She wants to make sure she's not wasting her time, and that's it.
Yeah.
She looks for cues and signals and ways where you can prove yourself. So I noticed that with me and Mitra too, where I was, and funny thing too, I want to say is, guys sometimes I realize even in the past relationship that I wasn't the best version of myself, and I think a lot of times what happens is in relationships, um, as much as we want to blame the other person, we still have some responsibility, and with guys, it's interesting. Sometimes we're a little bit confused and we think down there than we do with our heads, and that dictates certain decisions and how we show up. And when you're with the right person and you're truly compatible and you're a good fit and it's all natural, there's no pressure, it naturally, organically all happens, you and you hit it off. If you really care about the woman, as any man, then you are willing to change yourself. You are willing
Yeah.
to fix whatever issues you have. You are willing to work on your character. You're willing to do whatever it takes because you know that person's not going to come by again, and you want something that's sustainable along with that person, and you truly care for them. You'll do anything versus just playing,
Hmm.
a play on words and just giving them what they want to hear, because guys are really good at this in their 20s. You start to see patterns like, oh,
Hmm.
if I say this, then this is how she behaves, and I get what I want. I get my cake, and I get to eat it too. I don't actually have to do the work. And a lot of guys are
Right.
very immature. But if you really care about the woman, you talk a little bit less, and you actually do the work that's required to be in that relationship.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, I think, I agree with you on that, but I think there still has to be a level of you're already you're already wanting to be a better person when you meet that person. I think that, you know what I mean? I did a lot of therapy before I met Stefan. And I have seen other friends in relationships recently where you can see how much love is there. I genuinely know they both love each other so much, but they haven't done enough work on themselves individually to be able to show up for that person. So, and maybe it's coming from like, I don't, I know a lot of women, and I want to say this because if there is any women that listen, I know a lot of us will feel like, well, maybe there's something wrong with me, and that's why he didn't love me enough to want to change for me. And so I
you make
feel
it
like
about yourself and like make yourself more
you
insecure.
do, yeah. And, when you say when you really care about a woman, you'll make her change or you'll change for her. But I think if you haven't already started growing within yourself, it doesn't matter how much you love that person because you don't know how to handle certain things. You don't know how to handle your temper, handle your temper, handle your emotions, and you might love that person, and that might set you over the edge and make you react crazy because you're insecure, because you haven't grown past your insecurities. You haven't done the inner work yet. And so I think that, yes, of course, if you really, really love somebody, you will make changes for them, but I think you already need to be making those changes for yourself in order to be able to make the changes for that person,
Yeah,
if that
I
makes
agree with you
sense.
100%. I think you
Yeah,
have to already have a growth mindset. A relationship just like honestly just speeds up the growth process more
it
because now you have
does.
like
Yeah.
like a literal mirror of somebody else who needs you to show up as your best self for the relationship to work. What would you say to
Hmm.
all the women out there that that are making it about themselves and making it personal? Like, why doesn't this guy change? I don't understand. If he just did X, Y, Z, this relationship would be perfect. What
Yeah.
advice would you give to them to choose themselves over the relationship?
I mean, yeah, I feel like that's kind of a loaded question because it's so, yeah, I would feel the same way. Like if he would just get the therapy, we would be so great. We'd be so happy if he would just do that. But he's never going to do that for you. He's going to do that maybe because of you after you've left him, maybe. But he's not going to do that for you because he's not even already doing that for himself. So if somebody isn't loving themselves, how can they love you, right? You have
Yeah,
to love yourself first, and you're not going to get the therapy. You're not going to do all of those things if you're not loving yourself. So you kind of have to realize, like, if this person isn't showing you any sign that they are going to change, not that they want to, because people will tell you as much till the cows come home that I want to change for you. I love you so much. I don't want to lose you, blah, blah, blah. People can spit those words out all day long, but that doesn't mean shit if you're not actually making actions to make the change. So if this person isn't proving to you that they're actually trying to change, then you have to love yourself more because again, if you can't love yourself more, how are you going to give the best love to somebody else? You have to take care of yourself. And I remember I had a therapist one time tell me, you have to treat yourself like you're your own best friend, or your own big sister. Like, and I would think about that. If my sister was in a relationship like I am, what would I be telling her? I'd be telling her to get the fuck away from him, never talk to him again. You're so much better than that. So why am I not doing the same thing for myself? And nothing, if you don't break the cycle, it's just going to keep going over and over and over again. There's literally nothing you could do that could get that person to change. And I think if we just realize that, it will save us so much time, because we always think, maybe I can be more like this, and maybe that will make him want to change because he loves me so much because I do this, or no, that's fucking bullshit. Nothing that you do is going to make this person change. You need to take care of yourself. You need to remove yourself from the situation and realize that that's just, you deserve so much better than that. I don't know.
What happens when, because I've seen this happen a lot too, is when you break up with that person, you end it. It's not like everything just happens overnight. Obviously, the healing process.
Right.
So the other person might not want to break up. They want you to stay in
Yeah.
that cycle because that's what's comfortable for them. And now they're
Yeah.
hitting you up and making it so much
Yeah.
where every 3 weeks you're getting a long paragraph where they're gaslighting you. They're kind of shaming you for leaving the relationship and abandoning them. They make you feel like you abandon them and you're the result of, or you're causing this turmoil
Yeah.
that they're going through. So how do you deal with that? How do you deal with no contact emotionally?
I mean, I blocked him. I had to. I had to do it because, yeah, you keep getting those text messages, those long, I'm so sorry. You're the best thing that ever happened to me. I want to change for you. Please don't leave me. Please, I can't do this without you. All the things. You get all the things, and it's like, yeah, that's going to make you want to come back. It's going to tug at your heartstrings. And so I had to block him. And then I had to block him on Venmo because he would literally send me $1 so that he could attach some long paragraph to it on Venmo. $1. He would send me $1. Um,
It's
yeah,
not the first
no,
time
I
I've
had
heard that, by the way, just so you know.
really
Yes, I've heard this other times
from
from
other
girlfriends.
girls too.
Yeah, when they broke up with their boyfriend. Because if there's no
Yeah,
way for them to get in touch, they'll exhaust like every way they can.
yeah, it's crazy how they, I don't know. The last time I left, when I was in Vegas, when I told you about that time I left him, that was the last point. I was like, I just need to block him off of everything. I can't have him come onto my phone. I can't see that. I deleted his phone number and then I blocked him so I wouldn't even see like his name that is blocked, if that makes sense. Like I deleted our picture. Like I just had to get him completely out of my head. And I know that that's like really hard to delete the photos, but you just have to do it.
That's necessary, yeah.
Hmm.
I think, yeah, with men, I've realized, like, and also just a testament, like, if he really loved himself and if he had a good head on his shoulders, he would respect the fact that you don't want to be in it and actually wish you well.
Hmm.
And if he truly loved you, true love means like with or without me, that you have your
Hmm.
happiness, you have your peace, you have joy in your life,
Yeah.
and you're thriving, right? If I can help you get there faster, then you should be with me. But if I can't serve you in that way, you shouldn't be with me. And Jessica, I learned a lot from you in terms of in terms of even with masculinity. Like there's so many different forms. You always say masculine, but I think you helped me emphasize a gift that I think I had because of the way I was brought up. But it kind of pushed me to be that friend for my other boys, for my guys, the guys that I saw fucking girls over and not being honest and being fuckboys. And then I have a
Hmm.
bunch of my boys that were in relationships where maybe the girl they weren't compatible with and they were driving each other crazy. And you gave me the courage to show up in those friendships and be that voice of reason, because men don't talk about this shit. Men never talk
Hmm.
about this shit. It's all about, pussy, money, going out, this and that, fun, money, stocks. Like it's all around like, something physical or sometimes superficial. Even if it's deep shit, it's like, yo, I want loyalty and have my back, but we don't dive into relationships that often. And even if we do, it's
Yeah.
very superficial. It's about the superficial aspects of a relationship, not the depth of emotion, compatibility. And And I realize even my boys that are way older than me, a decade older than me, they're not very emotionally intelligent. So they might have great careers, they might be making a lot of money, they might be doing this, there are a lot of things that they have in order, but just because you have all those other things in order doesn't mean that you give this less time. If anything, becoming emotionally intelligent brings you more peace than probably anything else altogether. And it contributes to your relationships, it deepens your relationships. So I appreciate that. And I think, again, kudos to you for reminding me as much as you did. And I think you felt it a certain way to the point where I was like, you know what? Like, I don't just have to show up in Jessica's life as this type of friend. Like, my boys need to hear some of this shit. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
now I'm kind of observing them differently. Like, they're my boy and this is how they are with me, but how are they with women? And I
Yeah.
don't want one of the women that they're with, even if it's not physical abuse, any type of emotional abuse, I don't want them to be a victim or the Jessica of that relationship. So it really forced me to have some tough conversations with my boys. And I think
Yeah.
definitely need more men with a higher EQ out in the world.
For sure. Yeah, and I always loved that about you when, we would go out or we were just around all the friends and yeah, you were always the one that just wasn't the fuck boy. Everyone else was kind of a fuck boy to be honest. And like but you could tell the girls trusted you. All of the girls around, we all trusted you. And
There,
I
there's
think
there,
if it
there's a
wasn't for
right. The thing is, like, I hate the word fuckboy because it's like guys think it's like a compliment. Like, yeah, I'm a fuckboy. I get mad girls, but
you
it's
should
not. It
not
doesn't.
think that as a
It's actually like
compliment.
not. It's actually not a masculine. It's like a very boyish thing. It's
No.
actually not. It's not
Yeah.
masculine. It's not something to aspire to. Like a guy who's truly
Yeah.
masculine, you're honest about your intentions. And like the real masculine way to do it is to like not play with girls' feelings or emotions. You're also wasting your time and
Hmm.
energy. Now you have to pretend to
Yeah.
hide certain things and be someone you're not. If you throw it out in the wet open, you're not wasting your time. And also for me, I realized, oh, like that's how my boys do it, but that's draining. I can also just have a bunch of girlfriends, and then Jessica has 5 friends, and this girl has 5 friends, and I'm not good friends with them. And now because Jessica's gonna, vouch for me, or this girlfriend's gonna vouch for me, now I have a bigger dating pool than ever before of all quality women that are already vetted out
Smart.
by my closest
Yeah.
girlfriends. It's like you have
So
access to,
smart.
yeah, you have access to so many women, and you don't have to play games with them. And also, they already
Hmm.
know, so they already trust you. They don't have to vet you out because they're like, oh, well, that's Jessica's guy friend that she always talks about and how he's this and how he's that. So it's like,
Yeah.
it's a win-win. I swear that even with Mitra, if it wasn't for her girlfriends also being around and kind of vetting me out, that
Hmm.
the relationship wouldn't have moved as fast because girls trust other girls, other women, especially
Hmm.
friends that are really good friends. And if they
Yeah.
console in them, that you guys talk, right? It is what it is. And if other girlfriends say, yeah, I think he's a catch, I think he's a good guy, the guy's got to do like 50% less work because it's just already
Right.
done for them and they
Yeah.
trust him already.
That's so smart.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
that's the right way to be a fuckboy if you want to be a fuckboy. But no, I
Yeah.
appreciate Jessica. So thank you so much for everything. Thank you for sharing as much as you did. I know this is not easy. Um, I want to leave the audience with one last thing. So from everything you've been through, in regards to relationships, what's your biggest truth? And you don't have to give me an answer right away. Think about it for a second. But what's the biggest truth that you would leave the audience? If there was one truth that you've learned from all the relationships you've been in, the relationship with your father, with now Stefan, and your past, the
Mm.
toxic relationships, what's the most important piece of wisdom that you could leave the audience with when girls are either in an abusive relationship or they're just looking and they're still single? What should they look for in a guy, and what's the most important aspect of what to look for in a guy that you're compatible with?
Yeah. Um, I definitely think it's really hard to say just the one thing. I don't think that there's one thing that you should look for in a guy because there's so many qualities that Stefan has that I love about him that I couldn't just pick the one thing that's the most important. I mean, I think trust is definitely up there as probably one of the most important things. Trusting this person with
But what do
your
you see in a
heart,
person
your body.
but what makes you trust a person? Like, what is it? What would you say that like, oh, I trust this
Feeling
person?
safe. I think feeling safe. And I think they go hand in hand. If you trust somebody, you feel safe with them. I feel safe that, I can leave him if I have a friend in from out of town, like Janelle came out of town and I had to go to work and she works from home, he works from home, so they're both at the apartment all day and I'm at work. I have 100% trust and feel safe. And like, I don't think that he would ever try to do anything with any of my friends. And I've also built a friend group where none of my girlfriends are that type of girl either, but I feel very safe and he would never do something behind my back like that. I obviously feel very safe physically. He would never lay a hand on me in an abusive way. And I feel safe emotionally. Like, and this is something that I learned from you, Adele. Like, I remember you're talking about Mitra, and as women, sometimes we have crazy emotions. We can't help it, right? Sometimes, and sometimes maybe we'll fly off the handle a little bit. And I remember you telling me one time that when you guys are at that point with you and Mitra, you would just grab her and hug her and tell her you love her or something like that. And I just was like, oh, that's such a great man. I just want something like that. And that's how Stefan is. Like, I feel so safe emotionally with him. Like, even yesterday, I freaked out about something that was so silly, but my emotions were off the wall. And he just was like, okay, well, let's fix it. Let's handle it. Like, he didn't react to my emotions. And I think a strong man can handle his emotions enough that he can let you be emotional, because women are emotional creatures. It's just, we can't help it. We go through these phases every single month, right? And a strong man is going to help you through those emotions and make you feel safe and protected and be able to express yourself, and also bring you back down to a calm place where, okay, and now I can be okay, everything can be okay. And he does that for me. And I think that I've never had a man do something like that for me before, except for maybe having conversations with you or Damon. But yeah, I
It's
think
because
just feeling very safe.
women's hormones are like this, and men's are
Yeah,
more just like this. So like, I think
yeah,
I think most men don't even understand, biologically speaking, that we're just biologically different. So when a woman
mm-hmm.
is whining about something that seems like not a big deal, she's not actually trying to stress you out. It's usually just her hormones speaking, um, which
Yeah,
it's like a shit test. I don't even know how else to say it. And it might not seem like a shit test, and she doesn't even know why she's freaking out that much, but she wants to like test how much she can trust you in that moment. And if you show up, solve the
yeah,
problem, hug her, show her
yeah,
love, you basically just have to
yeah,
affirm it, and it doesn't go away. I thought, oh, after the dating phase and we get married, there's times now I'm guilty of it where I'll like react, and then a second later I'm like, oh wait, nah, that was like, fuck, I fucked up. Like, I gotta go back and just do
yeah,
what I did in the beginning of the relationship. So it doesn't end. It's like, even after you're married, women
yeah.
still are like this, and you still gotta be like this and show up this as your best self. So yeah.
Yeah. Well, we're all human. We all make mistakes. And, I'm not perfect. Stefan isn't perfect. You're not perfect. Mitra's not perfect, right? But I think that's something that we have in our relationships is a level of respect and really wanting to communicate in the right way, where you have those hard questions that, like, sometimes Stefan and I will be going through something and he'll want to talk about it in a way that I'm like, why do we even have to talk about this, Rayla? Like, sometimes I don't even really want to talk about it because I don't know. Maybe it's a women thing. I don't know. But he will approach it in a way of like, I want us to have a mutual understanding. I want you to feel respected. I want to feel respected. And I want both of us to move forward in a positive way. And he always comes at it like that. Even if I'm not really wanting to, eventually we'll both get there. And I think that's a lot of people don't have a lot of people in relationships, they don't have those conversations. I've seen friends in relationships that they don't have those conversations because
Or they wait too long to
maybe,
have it, and now it's like they
or
drag
they
it
wait
on.
too long. Exactly.
Yeah.
Or they wait too long and now they can't handle it because they've gotten stuck in their ways. It's very much about like having intention with how you communicate with that person,
Yeah.
because we can all fall back to our old ways and fly off the handle and be our childlike self. But if you come to it with intention that all you want to do is be better than you were the next day, and you just keep that mindset with it, it helps. And again, as women being emotional, I think it's so important to find a man that might be a little bit more emotionally mature than you. So if you feel like he's the one flying off the handle and you're having to take care of him, we're not here to be a man's mother. And I think sometimes as women, we kind of want to go into that role for you in a way to like help you because we're nurturers.
Yeah.
Because, yeah, exactly. We're nurturers, but you need to find a man that's more emotionally mature than you because we're the emotional ones. The men shouldn't be the crazy emotional ones.
They have to do the work, and it should be easy. You have other shit to worry about. You got to build a family. You have to work and build a crazy life. Can't do that if you don't even know how to talk to each other properly. And I think when you said about trust, it kind of made me think, I think the bridge of trust is built on communication because you can't read the other person's mind. And if you don't speak about things, then resent builds very quickly, more quickly than we think. It's like a silent killer of relationships. And I think if we're able to get on the same page quickly, not let the other person go to bed without speaking about whatever the issue is,
right?
That bridge is stronger and stronger. And obviously it's like, oh, I already know what's on their mind. I don't have to worry because I know what they're thinking. That's how trust forms. It's just communication.
Yeah. Yeah. And another thing I will say for women, when you're thinking of, okay, what do you want in that future man? I think that a lot of the whole independent women, I can make my own money, I can take care of myself, I don't need no man, which I definitely was that person for a long
I used
time.
to get annoyed with you. I'd be like, I get it, but like, but also like you could also be
Yeah.
very happy and happier with the person that's right for you.
Yeah. And I was like, no, I don't care. Like, nobody's going to take care of me. I can take care of myself. That is such a fucked up mentality. And it's unfortunate because I think men have made us become that way because there have been so many men out there that treat women like shit. So now we want to have that independence so that we don't have to put up with it, right? That's the whole point of women being independent. But if you really look at it, the person that you're with should be your not caretaker, but your man is supposed to be your provider and the person that takes care of you and your family. Maybe you have a successful career and you can contribute financially, and that's great for women if we can do that. Obviously, that's the type of woman that I want to be as well. But I used to have such a negative mindset around women that just stayed home and took care of the kids and cleaned the house and did the housewife role because I was like, oh, well, she's lazy. She can't take care of herself, yada, yada, yada. But you need to find a man that you can see as being the provider and the leader because ultimately that is the man's role. And if a man feels like he's providing and he's taking care, then he feels solid in his masculinity. And it's not just shit that I'm just coming up with. This is things that I have like researched and I've watched videos and I've listened to podcasts and done all of the research about this. A man needs to feel like the provider and he needs to be leading in the relationship. And as women, if we're strong, independent women, we don't need no man. Now we're not really looking for a man that's going to lead us. And if you're not looking for a man that's going to lead you, then you're going to settle for some man that maybe you're just attracted to and you have fun with him, but he's not necessarily fit to be a leader at that point. And I think where I was in my life, I really wanted to find a man that I could see to be a leader. And that's what I saw with Stefan is I saw, he's emotionally mature. He can handle my craziness. He's got his shit together. He knows how to lead his own life. He's already progressing in his own life so well that I know that if I had kids with him and I couldn't work, I know that we would be okay and we would be solid. And that is such an important thing that I think most women don't think about when they're looking for a man. Maybe some do. I'm sure a lot do because naturally we do. But I think a lot of women have that independent women mindset to where they're not really looking for that. They're looking for a guy that's fun, a guy that is healthy and exercises and, you know, maybe has a lot of money, but you can have a lot of money and still not be a provider and a leader, right?
Yeah, 100%.
Or
Um,
you could be broke, but still be a provider and a leader because of your actions and what you're working towards. So it's,
what you're
and then
working
how you
towards, yeah.
treat the woman and how you treat the woman and how you lead her. If she's having crazy emotions, how do you take her and lead her to comfort and salvation? So I think, yeah, finding someone you feel safe with, finding someone that you can actually trust to be a leader of your life is so important.
Yeah. And I'll say this because I think we always hear the independent, the feminist stuff, which I'm all
Yeah,
about. There's also toxic femininity as much as there's
for
healthy femininity, just
sure.
like toxic. So I
Hmm.
think there's a fine line between the two. Like, toxic masculinity is, I'm going to tell this bitch what to do and she's going to listen to me, and if not, she can go pay her own rent, right? That's toxic. The healthy
Right.
masculine in that same instance is like, it is an honor to be able to serve you and take care of you and provide for
Yeah.
you, and without you I would lack joy and happiness and the support that I need to go out there and keep fighting and sacrificing, doing what I do. As long as I get to come home to a happy wife, like, my happiness is with you, right? Like, you make me a happier
Yeah.
and better version of myself so I can do a better job when I go out there. And they look at it as an honor to provide. So the
Yeah.
same thing with toxic femininity. You can be independent, but I don't think being with a good, healthy partner and being in a healthy relationship undermines your independence. I think if you're with the right
Right.
person, they should be encouraging your independence. They should be encouraging you to pursue your dreams,
For
and
sure.
if anything,
Yeah.
giving you resources to get there faster versus trying to do it all on your
Hmm.
own. You're like a team. So it's not like you
Yeah.
lose your independence, you actually gain independence. Like, even me and Mitra, we're in a marriage. I want her to go hang out with their girlfriends. If I know our girlfriends are good people and she's happier because she gets to spend time with them, then that's fine. If she wants to go do this, whatever, I think your freedom is enhanced in a healthy relationship. I
Hmm.
don't think you lose your
Yeah.
independence. I don't think anything. If you're losing your independence in a relationship, that's because either you don't know what you're doing or you're not with the right person. But I don't think you
Right.
lose it in a healthy relationship. So there is toxic femininity, and that's not what we're discussing. There's also healthy
Right.
feminine, and a real masculine looks at women in a very, very high regard. They realize women are everything and the world can't run. They have healthy relationships with their mothers. They'll one day have a daughter and they want her to walk the earth with a certain level of dignity and respect, and they need to raise that daughter to the standard of love that she deserves. And the only way that happens is if they're a good father, right? So it goes hand in hand. You
Hmm.
can't you can't
Yeah.
have you can't have a good man without good women. You can't have good women without good men. I think we're more interdependent than we think.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, so true. Those male relationships are so important. And, I'm so blessed to have had you and my other male friend in my life because the two of you have really led me to find the right man. And I think if I didn't have an example like you, I would have never known really what to look for. I probably would have known what I don't want, but you don't know what to look for, if that makes sense, unless you see
Yeah.
it in another man.
You
So I
you are an
would
example of that.
also,
Yeah.
yeah, so I would also encourage women. I know it can be hard. It's really rare to have a guy friend that isn't trying to get in your pants. It's rare to find that, of course, but I encourage women to, if you don't have, you know, a brother or an, relative or somebody that can be that example for you, I encourage women to go find more male friends and seek out guys that are doing the right thing that you can just like see as an example and just be around them and see how they treat their friends and their women. And we need to have those examples, otherwise you just don't know what to look for, and you try to avoid what you don't want, but you don't really seek out what you want because you don't really know what you want, if that makes
Yeah,
sense.
or you already close yourself off because you just have made up your mind that it doesn't
Yeah.
exist. And it's like, whatever
Yeah.
you think you believe, try to find the contrary so your mind opens
Yeah.
up to the possibility of there is something else on the other side rather than just this warped reality that you're living in. Like, how is it that you're the
Yeah.
only one that's miserable, but there's other people in healthy homes with healthy kids and healthy relationships? Like, find the contrary of whatever it is, of what you truly want
Yeah.
rather than what you don't want. Um,
Yeah. And the
yeah.
quickest way to find what you want is leaving what you don't want and just getting in touch with your own self and not having to be in a relationship, being able to be single, be around friends, people that, you know, are healthy for you. They have the same mentality as you. Um, because yeah, it's just, I don't know. I was going somewhere with that and I can't remember where I was going
You're
with
good.
it.
Just a regular conversation. Well,
Just
Jessica,
regular conversation.
thank you so much for
Yeah.
sharing with us such a deep pain and just showing us that even the deepest pain, which obviously you've grown out of now, but I remember at the time it was a pretty dark time, that it can be a
Yeah.
catalyst for so much growth, and that it's possible to write a new chapter. And even for people that haven't been in toxic relationships, but maybe relationships where they're not 100% compatible with the person, hold on to the hope that there is somebody out there that's literally God made for you, that fits in your life so well, that will make you the happiest and best version of yourself. And keep looking
Yeah.
and keep searching, and also do the work on yourself that's necessary. So when they show up, you don't
Right.
waste it or spit in their face or close the door on them. That you recognize,
Yeah.
oh, this is the person that I've been looking for. So do that work. Thank you for being a beacon of hope. And thank you so much for all your time, Jess, and being so vulnerable with us. I appreciate you.
Thanks, Adele. I appreciate it. And I just want to say one more thing. Sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
What I was going to say earlier that I forgot, I remember that I have a lot of friends. If there's any women out there that are listening that are currently going through a toxic relationship, there are so many other women that are also going through the same thing. Like the amount of women that I know that have been in crazy, toxic, abusive relationships is insane. And these are some of the most beautiful women, just the brightest lights. And there's so many of them that end up with these toxic men. And I have been blessed enough to see so many of them move past that and get out of that, even if it was so fucking hard and you love that person, whatever, you get out of that. And then I've seen it work out in their favor. And now they're with amazing men, and I'm so excited. I get to watch one of my best friends who was also in a toxic relationship marry one of the best guys I've ever met for her in December, and I'm so happy for her. And I just want women to know that if you're going through that, the sooner you cut it off for yourself, the sooner you are going to find what you want. So do the hard thing, rip off the band-aid, cut it off, and then your bright future is going to come for you.
Thank you so much, Jess. I
Yeah.
appreciate it.
Yeah, of course.
All right, guys. Thank you so much for joining this episode. Sorry, a second. I'm still like getting used to the video
No,
podcast
you're all
format here.
good.
But no, this
All
was
good.
awesome, and I really hope everyone takes at least one thing from this conversation. I think it's important. I think it needs to be highlighted more, and not just from the perspective of a therapist or a psychiatrist on what to look for, but from someone who's actually been through it and firsthand experience in a
Yeah,
very raw conversation. So again, thank you so much, Jessica. And I think in
of
the near future
course.
we'll probably do. I'm sure we'll have more conversations. I actually want to talk about this again, but like with more people and kind of have
Hmm.
like a real conversation where we do it in person. So we'll follow up this episode with another one in Los Angeles eventually. But thank you so much, Jess.
Cool. Right. Good to see
Take care,
you.
guys.
Talk to you
Thanks.
soon.
Thanks everyone for joining.
Okay. Bye.